Hello everyone, welcome back to Cross/Game. EV here, back with a new video. This one is a scripted review of Final Fantasy 16. There is no spoilers that I can remember speaking of during my review. I'm still trying to find my voice and try to get comfortable, but ultimately, just putting it out there. It's a bit rough around the edges, but I think I've done a decent job. Ultimately, I'll leave that up to you to decide. Please like, share and subscribe and enjoy my review. As a long-time fan of the Final Fantasy series, I approached Final Fantasy 16 with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The franchise has had its highs and lows over the years, but I can confidently say that Final Fantasy 16 is a triumphant return to form. Not everything is perfect, but Square Enix has masterfully combined elements of the old with the new, delivering a fresh and a captivating RPG experience that captures the essence of what makes Final Fantasy so beloved. Final Fantasy XVI's narrative is an emotional rollercoaster filled with complex characters with a mix of political and religious intrigue. The story is set in a beautiful crafted dark fantasy world, where a balance of power between nations is a constant source of tension. The central character, Clive, is a compelling and relatable protagonist who embarks on a journey filled with tragedy, heroism and self-discovery. The supporting cast is equally impressive, with characters like Sid, Joshua and Jill making a lasting impression. Kazutoyo Maehiro's storytelling is deep, mature and emotionally resonant, exploring themes of duty, honour and the cost of one's power. All the supporting cast have been brought to life in a beautiful way, making each step forward meaningful within the context of Final Fantasy XVI's world, but also within the highlighted role-playing mechanic of Final Fantasy XVI's gameplay. To me, this is what elevates the story, as it places the player and Clive front and centre, keeping the story intriguing throughout the 40-hour runtime. In summary, Final Fantasy XVI's story is a breath of fresh air, and some would call it a narrative masterpiece on par with A Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, which will keep you engaged from start to finish. I would expect no less from the man responsible for writing Final Fantasy XIV's Heavensward. The combat system in Final Fantasy XVI is a departure from the turn-based mechanics from earlier entries, opting for a more action-orientated approach reminiscent of Final Fantasy XV meets Devil May Cry. The real-time combat is fast-paced and thrilling, allowing for strategic use of magic and abilities. While it is engaging and enjoyable, some may miss the traditional turn-based combat, which has been a hallmark of the series. However, the depth of the combat system, along with the ability to switch between icons mid-battle, provides ample room for strategy and creativity. Clive starts his journey with his core combat skills, which includes a general 4-hit combo, dodge and jump mechanic. Mastering the basics is key in understanding the flow of battle. To add to this, there's the addition of the icon abilities. Clive starts off with the Blessing of the Phoenix, which provides the element of fire and some interesting Phoenix-related abilities, such as the Phoenix Shift, which, while it isn't impervious to being hit, it allows Clive to close the gap between him and an enemy in a flash-like speed, allowing the player to continue a combo string. With the inclusion of ability points which are earned from battles and missions, the player will unlock additional icon abilities to try, test and eventually choose a setup that suits a preferable playstyle. Clive can only set 3 icons at a time, and along with each icon's core ability, 2 more abilities per icon can be equipped, so that makes 6 selectable abilities and 1 which is set as an icon's core ability which can't be removed. This allows for a tight yet freestyle combination of abilities between the 3 chosen icons, and this is where the strategy portion of the battle system comes into play. The stagger meter returns in the form of the wheel gauge. This is shown as the yellow bar below the enemy's HP gauge. Much like Final Fantasy XIII, the player will have to damage the enemy until the enemy loses the will to fight on. This allows Clive to unload strong attacks onto the enemy, causing significantly more damage until the enemy composes itself. I think the wheel gauge has been implemented and balanced perfectly between lower enemies all the way to the strongest boss encounters, which have a very high HP bar to deplete. Overall, my cynical self will always miss the golden age of Final Fantasy, with its turn-based or active time battle systems, but I can honestly say that Final Fantasy XVI's battle system brings something new and exciting to the table, as it forces you to strategize while under constant pressure from the enemy. It takes some time to get used to, but once you get the hang of it, the battle system is very intuitive and rewarding, but most importantly, it's a lot of fun. You'll find yourself wanting to get back into the action as soon as possible. From an exploration point of view, I didn't expect Final Fantasy XVI was going to have very wide open areas like The Witcher 3 or Breath of the Wild. This is because I can see it was designed with action as its main focus and not as a map exploring game. The maps are divided in zones, with 1 or 2 towns that breaks the journey. While the maps are never too large, for the sake of getting from point A to point B a little faster, FF16 does give you a chocobo to ride, making each journey to the next destination a little easier to get to. In the past, I felt that Final Fantasy games did struggle to balance how it wants players to explore its worlds. Between 13's linear map and 15's very open map, I think this is the best compromise. While there aren't that many points of interest in a single map or zone, what it does have is enough to keep your eyes glared to the screen, hoping that a hidden enemy might just appear, and sometimes you do get what you wish for. The game is divided in story missions and side quests. If you were to play only the story missions, you'd probably complete the game in under 25 hours, but by adding the side quest content, it takes a total time of 40 hours plus. One of my only gripes with the game itself is how and when these side quests become available. I think that for the most part they are evenly spread and help develop the side characters along with the main story. But towards the last 25% of the game, as the plot is peaking, I do think that some of the story quests should have been placed elsewhere so that they don't detract from the main story. As soon as I saw the green side quest symbol, I simply couldn't not continue with the main story until all green side quests had been completed. There was a specific instance where I kind of lost it. I had completed 3 side quests and the only thing to do next was to progress the main story mission. So I spoke to the next NPC to progress the story, and right after that one cutscene had finished, another 3 side quests happened to appear. I was frustrated and I got onto a stage where I started to skip the dialogue to move the next side quest along, which wasn't my finest hour. Which leads me into my second issue of the game. I'm very proud of the work done with the English version of the game. In fact, Final Fantasy XVI was designed with the English language first in mind. Casting for every character was spot on, and you can feel the tension and emotions come through each spoken line. That being said, while voice acting in video games is now a given, I think FF16 kind of takes the cake with the sheer number of lines that are spoken. MGS4 had a lot of cutscenes, but that's what they were, cutscenes. In FF16, every single side quest is spoken out loud. Because of the medieval English used in the game, at times I felt that it was too much for me. Maybe I'm being picky, but I found that having to sit there listening to every single word being spoken became cumbersome for me. I just wanted to get to the next step in the game. But I forced myself to listen to everything being said, just in case some important piece of information was revealed. However, I will admit, due to the amount of interruptions with cutscenes and spoken dialogue, during one of my late night playthroughs, I ended up falling asleep, which isn't what I know was intended, but there was a lot of spoken dialogue and I tried my very best to pay attention to what was being said, but next thing I knew, my eyes closed and I drifted into a deep sleep. So my apologies to the Creative Business Unit 3, because I know they've put so much work into this and it's almost disrespectful when that happened. But ultimately, that is all I have bad to say about the game, and I'm glad it's off my chest. Moving on to the graphics and art direction of Final Fantasy XVI, visually, it's nothing short of stunning. The game showcases the power of modern hardware with its breathtaking landscapes, meticulously detailed character models, and spectacular spell effects. The art direction perfectly captures the blend of medieval and fantasy elements, creating a world that feels both grounded and fantastical at the same time. Whilst Square retains its in-house style of Final Fantasy character looks, each character does look great, with the use of shadows bringing out the sense of realism from each expression. I remember in the first appearance of the game, gamers would say the game looked dark, but I would say that it's in the darkest moments that the game looks its best. It's hard to explain how good FF16 really looks, so I will let you watch the next 15 seconds of footage and you can judge for yourself.
Goblins. So my first missions in vain. Take a distance, boy. Stay down.
Being a dark medieval fantasy tale, you'll end up drawing comparisons with The Witcher 3 for what a medieval fantasy game is supposed to look like. You'll go from dark dungeons to open-air, breathtaking vistas, which at times just feel too good to be true. The aesthetic of a castle brick and rubble never looked so good. I don't have much to say about how great this game looks, but in case you missed it, Digital Foundry gave Final Fantasy XVI one of the most prestigious awards ever, the award for the best looking grapes in a video game. If that doesn't convince you to pick the game, I don't know what will. I'm near the end of my review of the game, and there's only one more thing left to talk about: the soundtrack. Nobuo Uematsu, the legendary composer behind many of this series' iconic soundtracks, isn't the man responsible for the beautiful music of Final Fantasy XVI. Rising into the pantheon of music gods comes Masayoshi Soken, fresh from realising some of the best music in the video game in Final Fantasy XIV. I can only imagine the pressure he felt to come up with a fresh new approach for a new main title Final Fantasy. I can honestly say he did not disappoint, and if anything has shown me that music is one of the best mediums to express all sorts of feelings. Soken delivers one of the most powerful, beautiful soundtracks in a video game. I would go as far as to say that during the marketing push of Final Fantasy XVI, the music is what stayed in people's minds, making players want not to only see it, but to hear more. I could write an essay on Soken's masterworks for this game, but in an effort to try and put things into words in a clear and concise form, I will say that the music in FF16 is emotionally resonant, enhancing every moment of the game, from intense groundbreaking boss battles to the quiet character interactions. In honour of the man himself, please enjoy 30 seconds of what I think is the best song in the game. Whether you enjoy FF16 or not, it's nearly impossible to say a bad word about the soundtrack that Soken brought to life. There are other amazing composers at Square, but Soken is truly a worthy successor to Uematsu as one of the lead composers of music in Final Fantasy games going forward. I understand that at one point during development he was in poor health. I hope that he's fully recovered, and I wish him all the best going forward, because he has a lot more music to give the world, and I for one can't wait. In conclusion, Final Fantasy XVI is an epic and captivating journey through a beautifully crafted fantasy world. With its exceptional world building, breathtaking visuals, and an enthralling soundtrack, Final Fantasy XVI immerses players in an unforgettable gaming experience. The minor pacing and heavy dialogue issues aside, the game masterfully manages to deliver a remarkable and unforgettable journey through a fantastical realm. It stands as a testament to the enduring legacy of the Final Fantasy series, earning my final score of 4.5 out of 5, and is a must-play for fans of the genre and the series alike. Hi again, thank you for watching my review of Final Fantasy XVI all the way to the very end. It means a lot to me that you managed to put the time in there, and hopefully it'll mean that I will get to do more videos going forward and more reviews of other games. But ultimately, I hope you enjoyed it. Once more, thank you very much, and please like, share this video with all your friends, and subscribe. That'd be lovely. Really would like to grow this channel and make something of it. Take care, see you next time.